He named his son and unleashed a countdown to the apocalypse. That's right. His baby's name literally meant, when he dies, it shall come. And the moment that child breathed his last, the floodgates of heaven broke open. This isn't just prophecy, it's precision judgment. And the man who foresaw it all, he didn't even stick around to see it happen, because God took him first. Let that sink in. In a world consumed by violence, drowning in pride, this man stood apart. He didn't build kingdoms. He didn't command armies. He didn't invent tools or compose symphonies. He did something far more extraordinary. He walked with God. Let me ask you something. What kind of life would you have to live, to be so in sync with the Creator of the universe, that He looks down and says, "You know what? You're coming home early." This story isn't just ancient history. It's a divine mystery, a cosmic invitation, and maybe a warning. Because Enoch's life wasn't just about escaping death, it was about pleasing God in a world that had forgotten Him. And friend, we're about to step into that world, a world that looks shockingly like our own, where evil was normal, righteousness was rare. And walking with God, that made you a target. But Enoch, he walked anyway. Before Enoch walked with God, before his name echoed through eternity. There was chaos, there was darkness, there was a world teetering on the edge of destruction, and it all began with a brother's blood crying from the ground. Before there was Enoch, before there was the flood, there was a world that forgot Eden. Humanity was still young, but it had already fallen. Hard. The garden was gone. The gates to paradise were sealed, and two brothers, Cain and Abel, stood at the heart of our first great tragedy. Abel, the shepherd, brought an offering from his flock. Cain, the farmer, brought produce from the ground. But God looked with favor on Abel's sacrifice. And Cain, he burned with jealousy. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. So, in a field, away from the eyes of the world, Cain rose up and murdered his brother. Blood hit the soil, and heaven wept. "Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground," God said. It was the first human death, but it wouldn't be the last. Cain was cursed, banished to wander, but he didn't disappear. No, Cain built a city, and from Cain's line came an entire civilization. They were builders, artists, inventors. They were brilliant, creative, but they had one thing in common: they forgot God. While the descendants of Cain filled the earth with noise, pride, and invention, another line quietly emerged, the line of Seth, Adam and Eve's third son. These people weren't flashy, they didn't dominate culture, but they did something radical. Then men began to call upon the name of the Lord. Genesis 4:26. It was a spiritual revival, in slow motion. These were the ones who remembered the garden, who longed for their Creator, who whispered prayers when the world shouted profanity. And this is the setting into which Enoch would be born. From Cain came Lamech, a man who took 2 wives and bragged about killing someone for merely wounding him. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. Violence wasn't just accepted, it was glorified. Women were used. Life was cheap. Pride was virtue. The earth was becoming a theater of corruption. But the Sethites, they remembered righteousness. They taught their children to fear the Lord. They kept the flame of hope alive, barely. And then, into this tension, a child was born. Not just a child of Seth, but a man whose name meant dedicated. His birth wasn't a coincidence. It was a divine appointment. And he would not follow the crowd. He would walk with God. In the 7th generation from Adam, a child was born. But this was no ordinary birth. This was the child of prophecy, the flame in the darkness, the whisper of hope in a world spiraling toward destruction. His name was Enoch. In Hebrew, it means dedicated, initiated, as if even his name knew he had been set apart. Born into the line of Seth, Enoch was a descendant of worshippers. But he would become more than just a man of prayer. He would become a man of presence. While others clung to tradition, Enoch craved something deeper, something raw, something real. Numbers mattered in ancient times. And Enoch? He was the seventh from Adam. In biblical language, 7 is more than a number. It's a symbol of completion, of divine order, of rest. It's as if heaven was saying, "Watch this one. He completes something the others couldn't." He was born into chaos, but destined to walk in rhythm with the Creator. Imagine growing up in a world where everyone was chasing their own truth, where men boasted of murder, where cities worshipped idols, where the sky felt cold and God felt silent. But not to Enoch, because Enoch listened. He saw beauty where others saw nothing. He heard whispers from heaven in the stillness of morning. He felt a pull, an ache, to draw closer, while others asked, "What can I build?" Enoch asked, "Who can I become?" And the answer came not in thunder, but in stillness. "Walk with me." And so he did. Walking with God wasn't easy. It meant walking against the world, against the pull of culture, against the voices of comfort and compromise. But Enoch walked anyway, not for status, not for safety, but because something inside him knew. This world was not his home. But everything changed. The day Enoch became a father, because when his son was born, so was a prophetic countdown to judgment. A name was spoken, and the flood clock began to tick. At age 65, Enoch became a father, and with the cry of his newborn son, everything changed. This child was not just a gift, he was a message. Enoch named him Methuselah. Now, that may sound like just another ancient name, but in Hebrew, it carries a chilling weight. Methuselah means, when he dies, it shall come. Let that sink in. This child's life was a countdown clock. His death would mark the beginning of the flood. Think about that. Every time Methuselah got sick, every time he scraped his knee, every time he simply grew older, the people around him had to wonder, is this it? He became a walking reminder of judgment, a warning that God's mercy had a limit and that Enoch wasn't just a man who walked with God, he was a prophet. Centuries later, the tiny book of Jude in the New Testament would record his words, "Behold, a Lord comes with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to convict all the ungodly of their deeds." That's Enoch. Centuries before Noah, millennia before Christ. He was already preaching judgment, already calling out corruption, already declaring that God was not blind and would not be silent forever. But here's what makes Enoch truly extraordinary. He didn't just warn the world. He didn't just preach. He walked with God every day, not out of fear, not because of ritual, but because he was in relationship. He talked to God, and God talked back. In a world chasing idols and pleasures, Enoch chased the presence of the living God. He wasn't perfect, but he was faithful. And in that faithfulness, something powerful was unlocked. The book of Hebrews would later say, "By faith, Enoch was taken up so that he should not see death, and he was not found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God." This is what separates Enoch from the rest. He didn't just believe in God, he walked with him, day after day, step by step, until one day, he didn't come back. What happened next would defy the laws of nature, shatter the patterns of humanity, and mark Enoch forever as one of only 2 men in all of history who never tasted death. The moment had come. God reached down and took him. One day, Enoch walked just like he had so many times before, step by step, breath by breath, in perfect rhythm with heaven. No thunder, no lightning, just the still, sacred beauty of presence. It might have looked like any other morning, but heaven knew. This was the day. Then it happened. No sickness, no last breath, no grave, just this. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Genesis 5:24. That's all Scripture says. Simple, profound, terrifyingly beautiful. One moment he was here, bus. The next, he was gone. Not a soul saw him fall. No one buried his body. No monument marked his end, because there was no end. In Genesis 5, every life ends the same way. And he died. And he died. And he died. But then, Enoch, a rupture in the rhythm, a break in the curse. He shattered the pattern. He transcended mortality. Because God didn't just love Enoch. God longed for him. He didn't let death have him. He took him directly into glory. Only one other man in Scripture ever experienced this, Elijah, the prophet taken in a whirlwind of fire. But Enoch came first. No fire, no whirlwind, just quiet wonder. Because Enoch's life wasn't about spectacle, it was about intimacy. And that, friend, is what moved the heart of God. But what happened after he vanished? How did the world react? What legacy did he leave behind? And why do the New Testament writers, thousands of years later, still mention his name? In the next part, we'll uncover the ripple effect of Enoch's life, and why his story still matters today. When Enoch vanished, there was no funeral, no final words, no explanation, only silence. One moment he walked among them. The next, he was gone. Some searched the mountains. Others scoured the rivers, Sassets. But there was no body, no trace, no answer. To the wicked, Enoch's disappearance was a haunting confirmation. His words of coming judgment had been dismissed, but now he was gone. Just gone. Could it be true? Did God really take him? What comes next? His absence was like thunder that left no sound. Only dread, and all eyes turned to his son, Methuselah, because they knew, when he dies, it shall come. Every passing year became a ticking clock. Every gray hair on Methuselah's head, a reminder. Judgment was coming, but to the righteous. To the few who still called upon the name of the Lord, Enoch's story became a beacon. Proof that it was possible. Proof that even in the darkest times, a man could walk with God, so closely, so faithfully, that death itself had to step aside. They remembered his words. They whispered his legacy, and they hoped, maybe one day he'll take us too. Thousands of years later, Enoch's name still carried power. In the New Testament book of Hebrews, he is honored among the great heroes of faith. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life, so that he did not experience death. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. Hebrews 11:5. Let that sink in. What pleased God most wasn't strength, or wealth, or fame. It was faith. And in the short, urgent letter of Jude, Enoch is quoted as a prophet. See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone. Jude 1:14-15. Think about that. This man, long gone before Abraham, Moses, or David, was still speaking to the early church, still warning, still calling, still pointing to a coming king. Enoch didn't build empires. He didn't command armies. He didn't write books. But he left behind something far more powerful. A path that said, this is the way, walk with God, even if no one else does. His life was short compared to others, but it was full, because a life spent walking with God is never wasted. But what does that mean for us? In our world, filled with chaos, distractions, and darkness, can we still walk with God like Enoch did? And if so, what would that look like? In the final part, we'll discover what Enoch's story means for you and me, right here, right now. So, here we are. Thousands of years after Enoch vanished without a trace, his story is still whispering through time. But it's not just a story about the past. It's a message for you, right now, right here. Enoch lived in a world full of pride, corruption, and rebellion. Sound familiar? Truth was rare. Wickedness was loud. People lived for themselves. But Enoch didn't blend in. He didn't compromise. He walked against the flow. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. Walking with God today doesn't require perfection. It requires devotion, trust, consistency. To walk with God is to invite Him into every step, not just Sunday mornings, but Monday meetings, Tuesday temptations, Wednesday doubts. It's living with heaven in view. Even when the world around you looks like it's falling apart. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it is faithful, and that's what pleases Him most. What if you said yes to that walk? What if you became the kind of person heaven notices? The kind of faith that echoes beyond your years? Because God hasn't changed. He's still searching for those who will walk with Him. And who knows, maybe one day, like Enoch, you will be not, for God will take you. If this story of Enoch, the man who walked with God, has touched your heart, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel for more amazing biblical stories that will strengthen your faith. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next journey. And please, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of hope. Thank you for joining us. Keep walking, keep believing, and never forget, He still walks with those who walk with Him.